welcome to my sort of response to Jack Howard's video on women in film. And I say sort of because that's not how this started out. This was supposed to be just a straightforward film review, and instead it became about something much bigger, which is the portrayal of women in film. Animated film specifically. Last week I was invited to a screening of When Marnie Was There, which is the new Studio Ghibli film. They are an animation film company based in Tokyo, and they make mostly sort of feature-length anime films. I am ashamed to say that before last week I hadn't seen one of their films. I thought for some reason it wasn't for me. But the guy who invited me over at Studio Canal, Jamie, hi Jamie, thank you for the invite, he told me that they're quite well known for their really strong female characters, protagonists in particular, and that as a woman in film I might be interested, so I should go along and take a look, and I did, and I was very pleasantly surprised. It was really different to anything I'd seen recently, or ever really. But I was surprised by just how much I was sucked in by the story, which is quite simple really. It's about a young girl named Anna whose parents have died, and so she's living with her adoptive parents who she doesn't really get along with. She's not doing very well socially overall actually. She's shy and awkward, and she finds it really hard to interact with the other kids at school. She's got pretty bad asthma too, so her adoptive mother Yuriko sends her to live with some family in the countryside for a little while just to get some fresh air and I think get a break from everyday life. While there she discovers this old abandoned mansion which to her at least sometimes looks occupied. The lights come on and she can see inside this girl who's around the same age as her. She turns out to be Marnie, they become friends and they go on an adventure together. And ultimately it's a sort of coming of age story about family and friendship. I found myself really caring about the characters and rooting for them. Plus the hand-drawn animation is just stunning and the score is quite haunting and beautiful, so that made it really easy to just kind of escape into the world of the film, which I think, having seen more Ghibli films now, is really the point of them, and something that its founder Hayao Miyazaki, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, aspired to make something fantastical and otherworldly that's fun to escape into, but that has themes and characters that are very much relatable and grounded in reality. In this film, Anna, the protagonist, is shy to a fault. She pushes people away. She can be a bit unlikable and downright bratty at times, but underneath all that you can actually see that she's, you know, really caring and compassionate. She's curious, all the C's. She's one of the most relatable, well-rounded female characters I've seen in an animated film, and that is what I wanted to address in this video. A writer friend of mine, Paul Neefsey, recently told me about his experiences trying to write a female character, and he was worried that he might be getting some things wrong as a man, maybe not knowing what it's like to be inside the head of a woman, understandably. So he spoke to his wife about it and she gave him some pointers and like helped him out with it. And I think that's such a huge step in the right direction. Firstly, that he made his lead character a female to begin with, but also that he was trying to make her a three-dimensional, interesting, complex, accurate person, and that he asked a woman's opinion. We talk a lot about strong female characters, and it's really great that more male writers are trying to write them, but Daniel J. Layton made a really good point the other day when we were talking about this. He said that when men talk about a strong female character, they mean a woman with masculine traits, somebody who is, you know, literally strong. They're ballsy and badass and they don't take no shit. And I think he's right, because that's often the kind of character that men write. But when women talk about a strong female character, what we mean, what we want, is someone flawed, someone imperfect, someone who, yeah, makes bad decisions sometimes, someone real. So that doesn't rule out being ballsy or badass or heroic at all. It just means being other things as well. Basically, this is the easy way to do it. Imagine all of your favorite male characters in film history. Now make them women. That's what we want. Getting finally around to the point, Jack Howard recently interviewed Jodie Foster, a true film icon, not jealous at all, and one of very few female directors in Hollywood, and they talked about why there aren't more women behind the scenes making films. They put forward a few ideas as to why this might be the case. Women might not be getting into film because it is historically a man's industry, and we know this from a young age. I've personally met several girls who said they were told they can't work in film because they're girls. Good on you, whoever told them that. Jack also said that maybe women are made to feel less equal, less likely to succeed, and therefore they're less assertive and you know, less likely to go after what it is that they want or ask for what they want, which is more often than not just a chance to show how good they can be. And of course it's also a symptom of a wider society where, spoiler alert, women are not equal to men. That's a thumbnail right there. So I wanted to throw my own 2 cents in here, because while I totally agree with everything that Jack and Jodie said, and I will link to that video in the description, I also think that the portrayal of women in film plays a huge part, especially films aimed at a younger audience. Disney princesses are a prime example of the dangerously stereotypical portrayals of women that kids are subjected to. And sure, some of them are intelligent and sassy and ambitious, but with very few exceptions, every Disney princess is just waiting for Prince Charming to come along. She's just waiting to be saved or loved or married. Even Pixar, who are undeniably like animation geniuses, have way more male lead characters, and the female characters they do have tend to play second fiddle. And don't get me wrong, I adore Disney and Pixar films, I really, really do, and I can see them making huge strides towards more, you know, well-rounded, well-represented female characters like in Frozen or Brave or Inside Out. But after watching When Marnie Was There, I watched a bunch more Ghibli films, and I have to say it's really refreshing to see an animation studio create films where a strong female protagonist is the rule rather than the exception. By the way, Spirited Away is my favourite one I've seen so far, and I really recommend you have a look at that if you're interested. And in that you've got this really cool young girl as the protagonist. You've also got a really, really good mix of both male and female characters as the heroes and villains. And I just think that Studio Ghibli have proven now that you can make a film which is a commercial and artistic success without a male protagonist. And of course there's nothing wrong with male protagonists, of course. It would just be great to see more gender-balanced casts in films in general. Pete Docter, the director of Monsters, Inc. and Up, has said that they've tried to write more female characters, but they found it, and I quote, very difficult. We're not as familiar with them, and you feel as though they're under intense scrutiny from the audience. It's very easy for us to make male characters have foibles, but with females, it's sometimes more delicate. Now, I appreciate that when a man is writing a female character, he might have to take into consideration, you know, public perceptions and be a bit more delicate, as Pete put it. But we should be fighting to make sure that that's not the case. Equality should mean equality in all aspects. And that stuff about him not understanding how to write female characters, please. That shit just ain't gonna fly, Pete. I write male characters all the damn time. And if you are a male writer struggling with this kind of stuff, if you're trying to write female characters and you find that you can't, write a character with no gender. Just write an interesting, complex human and then make it a woman. So I've done a little research. You love it when I do a bit of research. You can really tell I care when I actually go to the bother of doing research for a video. Anyway, I'm going to read some of this out because I'm afraid I might get some of the numbers wrong, but it is really, really interesting. This is a report that's carried out every year by the Centre for Women in Film and Television, and what they do is they take the top 100 domestic grossing films and look at the portrayal of women across those films. In 2015, 22% of protagonists were women. So that's like the hero of the piece. 1/5 of them were women. But it's not just the heroes I'm concerned with, because only 18% of antagonists were women. This one is interesting. Overall, only 33% of speaking roles were females. Now, in a world where 50% of the population are women, and we certainly know how to talk, that just seems a little bit off to me. And this bit's great. Moviegoers were more likely to know the occupation of male characters than female characters, and more likely to know the marital status of females than males. In addition, moviegoers were much more likely to see male characters at work and actually working than female characters. And it's not just gender that's imbalanced either. 76% of female characters were white, and the majority of them were in their 20s. Brilliant. Good job, guys. I'd encourage you all to check out that study, actually. I'll link it in the description as well. And while it might be a little bit infuriating, it is also really, really interesting. So go have a look. So we've got ourselves into a bit of a catch-22 situation, haven't we? Because if the majority of people making films are men, and they're making films predominantly featuring male characters where the female characters are either vapid, mute, two-dimensional arm candy or non-existent, and these are the paradigms that we're consuming from a young age, when the film industry itself is one of the main culprits in perpetuating the idea that women are somehow inferior to men, it's hardly shocking to find out that women don't really want to pursue a career in the film industry, an industry massively dominated by men. If only we had more women in film, or indeed more men like Miyazaki brave enough to ensure the equal portrayal of women in film, especially those targeted at a younger audience, you might just have a generation of kids growing up believing we're all equal. And in turn, more women making films. So first on my list, let's just get it out of the way because I know you're all going to be expecting it. It's Star Wars Episode 7, The Force Awakens. Of course, and of course this is on my list because we've been waiting over 3 decades for a good Star Wars film.